Mandy Gunter, and I teach in Gwinnett. And I first of all wanted to start with our resources that we have because that does guide our instruction and how we plan a lesson. So first of all, I just chose third grade, and I chose third grade because it's the middle of my elementary school because we're K through 5. And we have our curriculum. Our curriculum is the academic knowledge skills, which follows the national, state, and then our curriculum is a little, of course, we have to do things a little bit different in Gwinnett, to be very honest with you. So I downloaded this. Open up, please. And we're all going to wait and do this. But then you can see in our district, we have lesson plans that have already been created with some of our teachers. For those new teachers that come along that maybe need some extra help, also for sub days. And we have calendars that, to be honest with you, are very hard to follow. You know what? We're just going to, because everybody has a different schedule. And so it's very hard to follow those if your schedule doesn't align with that. And then we have our guides. So this has taken a little bit forever, but here we go. Now, our county coordinator was brilliant in putting the AKS in a Word document. And the reason he did that is so that we can copy and paste to make our lesson planning a lot easier. So it goes with the strands, and we actually ask him for that, for the national standards. So we have creating, performing, responding, connecting. And so then these here are our indicators of achievement. So here is your standard, connect music to the other fine arts and disciplines outside the arts. And then your indicators of achievement are what are listed below. So that's how the curriculum that we follow.
We're still stuck on the third grade music screen.
Oh, you don't see you don't see my AKS?
We see we don't see them. No, once you've clicked on them, it hasn't changed.
Let's go back. Do you see that at all?
No, it hasn't changed.
Well, you see this, the third grade AKS. You can see me moving around. Okay, I'm going to come back to that.
All right.
Can you see my portal?
Oh, wait, now we're getting somewhere. Yes, we see the staff portal.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to do this through the staff portal instead of downloading. So right. We have, on our portal, we have a Fine Arts Communication Center. And this is what it looks like for all of our employees. And then we have elementary resources, elementary music. And up here are the AKS. And we also have purposeful pathways that I wanted to show people too. What I picked today is not in purposeful pathways. We'll see. I don't think it's going to work, but can you see that? Can you see the Word document?
No.
Okay.
Did it go to your screen behind the internet browser?
It did.
All right.
Okay, so we have our AKS, our lesson plans, our calendars, and our guides. Okay, so let's go here. So how we start our lesson is you have to have the ending in mind. What do you want to accomplish with your students? And so I have my lesson plans that look like this. Can you see my lesson plan? I wonder why this is not working.
I don't know. Did you share your browser only? Because if you share your screen, it might show us whatever's on your screen.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing really quick. Okay. And then we're going to share again. And I am going to I have Windows. Does that make a difference? Window 9 is what it says.
Is that showing what's on your screen?
No.
If it has a place to share specific screens, yes, now I can see your Word.
Okay, thank you for your help. I was about to call my husband down. He's a computer programmer. Okay, so here is what my sample lesson plan looks like. I have my grade level. We do our, when I've talked about the guides, every school, I think in Gwinnett County, and there's 81 of them, elementary schools, I swear we all have a different schedule. So my schedule is 5 days. And we see them per week. So I see a class a week, and then I see the next class a week. And a lot of people ask about that planning. I absolutely love it because I get to plan units. And in those units, I get to have a concise amount of days that kids come in and we work and we add and we spiral curriculum through what we're going to do. So we have what day of our rotation. This year, I added for me the concepts focused on during the rotation. So if kids need to know if I'm really focusing on a certain pitch class, like So La Mi, what am I doing with that pitch class? Are we singing it? Are we improvising in it? Are we, what songs do I need to have that have that pitch class in it? If we're making a rondo, if we're talking about form, what form are we doing? Are we doing rondo or are we doing ABA? So I get to write that in to go back and quickly look and see what we're doing. And then we have in Gwinnett Quality Plus teaching strategies. These Quality Plus teaching strategies are what we are graded on and what our assessment is with our principals. And you should see this in a lesson, in every lesson. So those are literacy. And in the music world, we can say, what kind of literacy? Are we speaking children's lit, or are we talking knowing your rhythms, knowing your pitch? So if it is literacy, I always click that, and then I put in my assessment what that actually means. And I'll show you what that means, my assessment. We have student goal setting, summarizing. Can kids summarize their learning? Collaboration. That happens naturally in our class, so we don't really have to worry too much about that. Problem solving, modeling and practice, nonverbal representation, assessment and feedback, technology, vocabulary, background knowledge, questioning, and comparison and contrast. So when our administrators walk in, again, they should see all this. We have I can statements, that I can perform a steady beat. I can perform a rondo. So I have all the AKS that are needed for my lesson. I have those there, so it's really easy for me and the administrators to walk in and see what they should be seeing. And then I have the process of my lesson. And this helps me know, okay, we're going to go here, we're going to go here, we're going to go here, we're going to go here. So this is day 3 of a rotation. And so we come in and we echo through patterns of beat and rhythm on body percussion. If this is part of my warm-up, your warm-up should include elements of your lesson that are going to come back, because we want kids to experience before we label. So if there's a tricky little rhythm somewhere, or let's say I'm working with a mi so la pitch class, I can add that in my warm-up. When the kids come in with a steady beat, I can sing kind of crazy little patterns. They can sing back to me. We can do, your warm-up doesn't include just non-locomotor movement. It can include locomotor movement, moving around the classroom. And so when kids experience those patterns or they experience that rhythm, it's already in their body. They're already thinking that. And I have a song that we did, Esembu Kawaya. But we're studying folk songs. It's from Nigeria. It's beautiful. It's a boat song. And then we have this little boat race between beat and rhythm in our class. And they have to explain to me why did beat win. It's really funny because they get really competitive about it, and I love it. And then we have a song called Little Johnny's Gone to Tea. And that has changed a little bit. I have a student teacher that is teaching this. And what we've done is we've taken the melody of the piece, and kids have had to sing the melody and then figure it out on the ORF instruments with the bars that they need. And then they've created a separate section of a 16-beat improvisation to go along with it. But we really need them modeling that So La Mi. And using that same pitch class, kids looked at a piece called Hammer Ring. And so we've looked at it, and I wanted to show you my visual that I have that here. Doo-doo. All right, so I'm going to do this. I think everything went away when I shared this. So this is a list of my visuals. And visuals are very, very, very important, not only for the students, but also the teacher as well, because you're gonna get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, what was that word? But and when classes are leaving, if you don't have a time to change things and look at it, it's visuals are for you. So I have my visual here, and this is what the kids have looked at. This is the melody. Um, there is this common, I want to say, folk tale about or that we don't look at music. That is so not true. We actually do. So the kids have practiced in their warm up, so I mean patterns, and then we look at this piece and we sight read it. When I first show a piece to third graders, what I do is we identify the time signature, and I just tell them it's how we group our beats. And I use my sock drawer of all things to tell them that. I go, my sock drawer is very important to me. And it really is, because I have my running socks and my middle socks and then dress socks here. And I go, y'all, if I open my sock drawer and there's a burrito in there, oh my gosh, that's horrible. And so we talk about how we group like things together in our house, fridge, or, the freezer, the frozen food goes in the freezer. Those kind of connections help kids. And it's those little things. I'll go, what do you have that you have organized that's just yours? And they connect with that. So then time signatures are just, yep, we're just grouping our beats. We go over measure, we go over how it's the same, we analyze this melody. And after we sing it, kids are like, wait, it only changes at the end. They're analyzing, they're taking it all in. And then I have my words so they can see it. And we talk about the meaning of the piece. And so that might be the first day looking at this piece of music. We sing it, we look at it, we move on. The next day I come in, I could play this on the recorder, play the melody on the recorder. Kids identify, oh my gosh, that's Hammer Ring from yesterday. Okay. So we sing it, and then we add in our ostinato parts, our bass parts, and we transfer that to our instruments as we're walking around. And then I could add the snaps for the glockenspiel. Or if I'm noticing through demonstration assessments that this is where the students are today, I don't move on. And that's really important when we're talking about planning a lesson, is how important demonstration assessments are, and that you as the educator always are reading the room when it comes to students. Because if you see that this part is what they can do today and you need to wait on the next ostinato, that is okay. That is where they are. Maybe they can walk around to the bass pattern and they're having a problem matching pitch. Stop there. And, ostinatos are those things that we can just add, like that glockenspiel part is probably naturally going to come to students. But if it's a difficult thing, it may lead to more processing that needs to happen before we transfer that and they can become independent musicians. Now, one thing I'm really working on with my students, and it's been a little difficult after COVID, but it's getting better, is still singing and playing at the same time. And I think what happened is in COVID, we forgot ensemble work. And now we're back at school. We can sit up all day. That's good, because we didn't do that for a long time when we came back. And kids had a hard time with core strength. They couldn't run for 2 minutes. We're now building up the stamina still after that. Also, I wanted to let you know that in the classroom that we're seeing, kids are having a struggle with reading, and we think it's because they had masks when they were learning to speak. And so phonics is really hard for students right now. So I'm noticing that when I'm processing out lessons, especially for our younger children, they really need, I would say, research says 3 to 7 times to hear a piece of music. I'm leaning more on 5 or 6, that they really hear the piece and experience it through, maybe add the steady beat one time when they're listening to it. The next time you give them part of the melody to sing as they're adding the beat, and you add on very slowly to them becoming an independent musician. But that is something that is concerning for me in a lot of ways, because what's their fluency going to be later on? And in choir, I know we have a choir teacher. How are they going to phonetically know different languages? So that's something to kind of keep in the backpack of your backpack, that you can bring that out and really know that in future development. and talk to your elementary specialist. What are you seeing? I love it, by the way. What are you seeing with the students in fifth grade? Because that's going to then impact them in sixth grade and seventh grade and eighth grade. So I urge you to do that. I know we're not talking about vertical alignment, but that is pretty important. So if we have our visuals here and we put our piece together, my students had notation cards on an index card and they had different rhythms. And so they worked in a group and they had to make a rhythm pattern with a final ending. That's really big for me, that it works musically. And kids had to add body percussion to that. And then we transferred it to instruments and made this a big rondo. So that's what we did in third grade. And so, by the way, you will see pieces on here that I do not teach anymore because I have looked at that and they're just not appropriate for my classroom anymore. So I was going to show you a sample lesson plan. So this is what the county template looks like, and you can see that my template looks a little bit different for my school, but I wanted all the AKS and the indicators in one little spot. I didn't want them spread out. So you can see your materials that you have and the background knowledge, the purpose, the process. In my lesson plans too, I'll go back and show you. I put an assessment tab after everything that I want the kids to do. I find that very important for me for a reflection. Who got this? You know, what am I looking for? Is my assessment who can sing, who can demonstrate instrument playing as you see on the screen, because that tells me what strategies that I'm using as I'm teaching. And so I also find that very helpful for when my administrators come in. Why are we doing movement for this? And if they can see, well, who can sight read our piece and who can keep the beat while singing, they know that we're working within that framework of the steady beat. Does anybody have any questions so far? Because I don't want to move too far and not have questions or feedback from you. Do you have anything?
Hi, earlier you talked about a boat song and a boat race.
Yeah.
It sounded really cool. Can you elaborate more on that?
Oh, yes, I can. Okay, so the song is called Esambukawaya. It was from one of our previous curriculums in Gwinnett, and I have to be very honest with you. We have a portal, and there's some little cutesy stuff for the kids on the portal, and we don't really use it because I don't think that kids should come in my classroom and just sit. And I have a lot of coffee, and we get up and we move around. And I want kids making music, not just looking at it. So the kids have their own little portal that if it's a digital day, I can say, hey, listen to this song or whatever. That's the extent of what I use for that. But Esambukawaya, what I can do is go through and show you the visual of it. So you can see the piece, see what it looks like. It's really cute, by the way. And I have students from Nigeria. And if they would like to enhance the lesson, I have some clothes from Nigeria that kids have given me. And I bring those out and we talk about them. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and so we talk about how colorful they are. And this year, one of my students who can be a little an opportunity to explore behaviors. He is from Nigeria, and he's like, wait, this is called a so-and-so, and this is how you wrap it, and da, 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 da. And then we talked about the clothes, and then I go into the food. I'm like, oh my goodness, you tell me what you love to eat. And so the words or the melody is Esimbukawaya kada kari, Esimbukawaya kada kari, kada kari, kada kari. So really, I'm prepping third grade for pure vowels, also going into fourth grade. But I have Nigeria on a map, and we compare and contrast how Nigeria is like the state of Georgia, that we have a coastline. And we go over, what's different if you go to the beach? What do things look like they're different? What's the food like that are different? And so this is a boating song, and we talk about boating, and they're actually they act like they're in a boat, and we go across the classroom, but the beat boat can only step to the beat, and the rhythm boat has to step to the rhythm. And so then we talk about why does the beat stay the same and how that pulse carries through the music. And it's a good way for them to still sing and still keep it interesting and have a competition in class and still make it fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. And I mean, you could, if you wanted to, you could add a steady beat on the ORF instruments, but kids usually want to be in the boat race that we have. So that's what I consider, when making that lesson. So there's some things that I'm going to go back to our portal now that you can see. I'm really excited that you can see that. I'll show you our calendars. Again, it's really hard to follow them when you don't all have the same schedule. And I wanted to show you purposeful pathways too. So here's how we're saying you could do this, the AKS all the time, but this depends on your students. It also depends on how long your classes are. If you have a 30-minute versus a 50-minute class, well, that's going to look very different in what you do in your lessons and what to expect. So let me go back. I'm going to share this sentence with you. Purposeful Pathways has published some replacement lessons for songs that may draw some concern. Please access those lessons with this link. So there has been a big diversity push, which was needed in song selection and song repertoire. Our classrooms are filled with students from all over the world, and that diversity is amazing and it's wonderful. And we have these little communities in our classroom that are just, it's why I get up in the morning and I feel so blessed to go do what I do. But we also have to look at the songs that we learned in our music classes growing up that may not, there's new light being shed on the history of them, and they may not need to be considered as part of the curriculum anymore. So Kadai actually has a website, and they have a song collection. And I urge you to really look into everything that you present in your classroom. Know the history. Know, is it derogatory towards a group of people that you may not have known before? And so that needs to be looked at. And there's always something else to replace a concept that you need to teach. We can find another song for that. We can write another song if we need to. But I looked up hammer ring because that's what you looked at in this piece. And it goes through what it is. It gives you the pitch class, the rhythm. And you can always Google a song and find it. But I just find this is a great way to go ahead and look at a piece and do the research on it before you present it. And we have learned through studying pieces that now some of the pieces that are in purposeful pathways, they're not appropriate. One of those, and I think it's in one, is Johnny on the Woodpile. So what I've done is I've gone through my purposeful pathways books, and there's huge post-it notes, do not teach. And that's for subs. If a sub comes in my classroom or a student teacher's in my classroom, mostly a student teacher, that we can have a discussion about that piece and why we don't teach it anymore, but also do not use it at all. So Roger Sands and Beth Ann Hepburn are the people who made Purposeful Pathways. And so what they've done for us is they have gone and they have written new material to teach that same concept, so that you don't have to look any further. They already have that, and they tell you what it is. So a replacement for Johnny on the Woodpile now is Sing and Dance Together. And their new publications or pieces or their books will not have the old songs in them. And what I love about them is that they really knew what teachers needed with visuals. And so this is what you get when you're looking at that lesson. You already have your PowerPoints. They are already done. It's really great. So you have your pitch staff if you need that for your kids. You have the melody with the solfege. And they have the processing of these lessons are absolutely amazing. And when we talk about process, it's what we want students to show us what they know. It's like you would not imagine kids putting a melody on instruments without knowing the melody first. Well, how are they going to know the melody? How are they going to experience it? Are you going to sing it for them? Are you going to play recorder first so they get the melody in their head and then apply the words? Sometimes I do that just to see like how are they moving around to a steady beat with a melody. Now let's add our words to that and let's just see where we are. When you're creating movement, have I given kids a backpack of yes? And what I mean by that is what have I modeled for the kids for them to expand upon? So if kids are adding a steady beat, if I don't model the steady beat for them, that's going to be kind of hard for them to come up with, question and answer phrases or, when they improvise. But if I give them the backpack of yes, let's do this, and they experience it. That can be in your warm up. Then they're going to apply that to their learning. Does that make sense for everybody?
It does. Is that for Gwinnett County only, or because I'm in Fayette and I know the teacher at the elementary school where I'm at uses Quaver like very heavily for the elementary school. And I remember reading that in Dr. Holmes-Davis's book about not being too dependent on technology for 40 minutes and then do only 5 minutes worth of music stuff. So I just didn't know if that resource was like Gwinnett County specific.
Well, the resource is out for any educator. When Gwinnett does a textbook pilot, and so we were part of the process pilot, and I'm a lead teacher in Gwinnett. So what we did is we took resources and we said that purposeful pathways, and I wrote on every sticky note that I could get my hands on, we need purposeful pathways. I use purposeful pathways almost every day in my lessons. So his name is Jad Jaworski, and he's now our principal, but he was over the textbook pilot, and he goes, okay, I hear you. We need purposeful pathways. So here's what he said. We're going to get what we have to on this for the students on the portal. Like we have to have that electronic resource for them. However, our teachers need also a supplemental resource for process. And so every teacher in Gwinnett, every elementary music teacher has purposeful pathways as part of their supplemental material. I don't want to diss other curriculums, but if Dr. HD is correct, you don't want to rely on technology because it may not work. So as the educator, I'm going to know these pieces anyway. These visuals just enhance my instruction. I am not relying on them at all. I am looking at the demonstration assessments, and you have to know your pieces before you teach them. And I know all the parts. And still to this day, I take my lunchtime and I'll go back and play a part while I'm singing it to make sure that I remember it, that it's in my body too. Because if, let's say the kids can't put that ostinato, a second ostinato on a piece of music, what if they can? Now it's time to move them to a third ostinato or move them to the next thing that we're doing. So as the educator, you always have to know the extension or the retention of what you're teaching. Can you take them a step further? Can you take them a step, or do you have to go back to the process and take them a step back? All of those things are okay, but you have to know those pieces as the educator.
Sorry. To clarify, Purposeful Pathways is like a textbook, yes, and you can purchase the book, and these resources online come with the purchase of the book.
Yes, and they have a DVD that they send out with the book that has everything on it. We just put that on our online platform for our teachers so that it's easier to get and it's all in the portal. So if we have a digital day and, it's a snow day, whatever, you can still plan instruction at home and put it on the portal for the kids. That's why we did that. Another thing about maybe a technology platform that shows videos a lot. If I was an administrator and I had a limited budget, why would I pay a music educator and use that full FTE point is what we call them in Gwinnett. I don't know what everybody else calls them. But if I'm a limited budget and I know that this classroom needs a teacher because I need less kids over here, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay a sub every day. And I'm going to pop in a video and the kids get the same instruction. So don't output yourself out of a job. This is why you want kids actively making music. So I'm trying to put that in the most professional terms that I can. But we have to really be careful of and the videos that we show and how we implement them in instruction. And take that as you will. Now, in planning a lesson too, one thing that can really take away from instruction are transitions. And how do we go from one thing to the next when we're planning a lesson? And so this past time, third grade, they were singing Hammer Ring and putting the bass pattern to it. I needed them to move from this space in my classroom of moving around to in front of the board to look at a piece of music. Now, I have found that movement first helps with the focus. We come in and we sit in a circle and the kids watch me because I need that focus now on the director. And we changed our space. And my space looks very different than a regular classroom because there are no desks. And there are 33 ORF instruments, and there are drums on this side, and there's my desk, and there's a bigger vertical space in my classroom. That is different for children, and so they need to come in and find the focus. One thing that I have also implemented, I absolutely adore animals, and my dogs are the most precious things on the planet. And so I have gone to the home store, TJ Maxx, and like cute little dog paintings, they're in my classroom. And they're just everywhere and they make us happy. And I have pictures of my dogs in there. And and my students know my dogs' names and they ask about them all the time. We also use the dog pictures for recorder goals. If you play really great, you can have this picture of Porter. And is Porter happy? He's one of my babies. And then Ethel Ann is just, she's hot mess express. So if we don't play very well, maybe you get the picture of Ethel. So they're setting their student goals based on my dog pictures. But now I have paws on my room that are little Velcro paws that I have, and now come in, find a paw. And that also helps with spacing of my special ed students. 20% of my school is in the special ed program. And it's amazing. It is amazing to see how brilliant these children are and to see their capabilities. I do not look at them as having a disability. We build on the strengths of their abilities. And that is very, very, very important. Every child has a place. And it may just be steady beat. That child has a place. So I'm very passionate about my SPED children, if you can't tell. And we do follow all the IEPs. But those paws help that. So go back to the third grade lesson. We've been moving around, we've been singing. I don't say, go to the board. Let's move to the board. I say, let's do that song one more time. At the end of the song, I'm going to need you in front of my board. That also helps to cut down with the talking because children love to collaborative talk. And they're going to take every opportunity to do that. So if I'm giving them a task, and I'm having them move from one space to the next, I have taken that opportunity out of their hands. And so you don't usually have to deal with a lot of discipline problems at that point because they don't have time to be a discipline problem. And other teachers, they don't understand that. They're like, how, how is this class just smoothly gone? It's because I've thought about it. I have thought logically, I need you to do this, so we're going to move here. Even when my ORF instruments are in the back of my classroom in 3 rows, basses, altos, sopranos. And if we're moving from one to the other, I need the back row basses. I need you to stand and walk this way. And having the consistency in your classroom of this is how we treat our instruments. If you have the consistency of every day, this is what we do when you come in, kids naturally just start rotating through. And I have them, if I'm facing out in my classroom, they walk around the instrument to come to the instrument this way, they walk out that way. So there's no bumper cars, there's no nothing. And I can teach instead of wasting every valuable moment that I have with transitions or, again, discipline, because it's just kind of a non-issue usually in my classroom. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Doesn't have to be like any dance game in any grade level.
I'm sorry, can you say that again, please?
Does the dance game matter on any grade level? For instance, grades 6 through 8?
I would have kids up and experiencing and moving all the time.
Yeah.
It would change developmentally between 6th through 8th grade. So if you are doing ensemble work, what I would do is use movement to put your work together. So I would have some kids walking with steady beat and start off that way with whatever you're doing. Like if you're doing a poem or you're doing this, walk with steady beat. Then add in the ostinato pattern, half the class. You do the ostinato, you do the beat, you change. So they experience each part. So then when you put it on instruments, all of the kids know all of the parts before transfer.
Exactly.
So it would look different depending on the concept that you're teaching. If you're doing a mixed meter piece, maybe everybody needs to do the same rhythm, the same mixed meter first, and maybe do it like at the catchy rhythm that's gonna, be harder. Put that in your warm up. Put it on body percussion. Put it on levels so they experience it. And then when it comes back around in the music, hey, does that feel familiar? Have them realize that they've already done it. And sometimes if a part is really challenging, if you tell kids, yeah, you already know this, it's not like, oh gosh, am I going to get it? It's like, oh, I already know it. Perfect. And that takes the ease of learning and it makes them more comfortable in experiencing the learning because it's like, you're an old pro at this. You know this. We've already done this. And then we'll go, oh, well, it's not that hard. And that's because I've taken that challenge and I've developed it for their needs and I've made it really easy. And they're still doing hard things. And then afterwards, sometimes I tell kids, you've just done something really difficult, right? And I didn't tell you.
Okay.
There's another thing that I did this week that when I was talking to my 4th graders, my student teacher he really liked it. And I think it would be good to share it with you. So we took a book, it's called Not a Stick. And I gave them 2 melody makers. Honestly, they're plastic chopsticks, but it's what my budget allows. And what we did is we acted out. I didn't use the book at first and it was completely silent. And I would pick up a chopstick and I would do something with it, something with a melody maker. Like I would make a mustache and put it down. We were crocheting something, put it down. And then I said, and so my kids were like, and we explored with what they could be. And then I read the book, Not a Stick. And in the book, the character has something and he says, it's not a stick. And they're like, what are you doing with that stick? And so he went fishing, he painted a picture, he did all these things. And so then they modeled after me and they were my mirror. And the piece goes like this. I know how to play. I know how to play. I know how to play with sticks. Hey, I know how to play. I know how to play. I know how to play with sticks. Hey, right, left, keep it steady. Right, left, keep it steady. Right, left, keep it steady. Right, left, right. And then we did the A section over again. I had the bars on the instruments that were only needed, and they had to go and figure out the melody. And so we went over what hand stayed the same, what hand moved, and it was brilliant that they got it as quick as they did, and they did a really good job. So they were playing, and then really cannons are what we are focusing on. We made a cannon out of it. And, we sung a cannon, we moved to our canon that we were singing, and then we transferred it to instruments. And fourth graders are absolutely enthralled with canon work. I mean, it is just, they're like, can we make a cannon? Can we please make a cannon? Can we please make a cannon? And you're like, yeah. And then the canon that we were singing, I was passing out the materials that we needed. I was passing out our melody makers. And one kid goes, I'm just not happy. I was like, well, what can I do to make you happy today? And they were like, we want to all sing the canon individually. I was like, let's try it. And so we did. And it was helped actually with time with me passing out materials. So I have them also collaborate with me in their learning. And when you give children ownership, it becomes their piece. And when it becomes their piece and they have some choice, and here's how I give them choice. Let's say I have a bass pattern and I have bass xylophones made out of wood and bass metallophones made out of metal. We talk about timbre. And when I talk about timbre, I go, all three of my dogs are barking in the backyard. Do you think I have to go see which one's barking the most? And they're like, no, because each one sounds like each other. And I go, yeah, that's just called timbre. It's like knowing a guitar from a drum. And they're like, okay. So now it's, hey, what timbre do you want? Do you want the bass xylophone timbre or the bass metallophone timbre, and why? And for them just to have those little small, just wonderful ownership that they have, they're making music. And to me, there are times where I'll say, sometimes I give you the choice. Today I'm not because of this piece. And I'll tell them why. And they're like, oh, okay. But it's collaboration. And I feel like when I respect my children and tell them, hey guys, I need this piece here and you'll see why, just give me a second, they'll go, okay. Or, working together, I've opened those avenues of really trusting me and trusting that music is a safe environment and allowing them so many opportunities for strategies for learning, movement, singing, playing instruments, all those things. Oh, and here's what my student teacher was telling me. I had some kids struggling. Some of them brilliantly got it. One was really struggling. And I said, put the melody makers down. And I was like, guys, this is hard. And I said, sometimes singing is easier. Sometimes our instrument playing is easier. And sometimes recorders are, is your jam. Here's the thing. Music is math. And we explain how it's math, and I explain how it's language arts and science and how it's movement and how it's this beautiful art. And they're like, wait, it's everything. And I'm like, it is. So if this is one little difficult thing, don't worry. It's not meant to be easy. And they were like, okay, cool. And the little boy that was struggling right in front of me, he just went, and it gave him permission to take time. And sometimes your kids need that. Sometimes they need to know, you know what I'm asking you to do right now, you're incorporating a lot of different skills, and it's okay to take a second. And that child is being tested for gifted. So it's not that, one is gifted and can always show mastery of a skill. Sometimes your gifted kids, when they come in and they struggle in an elementary music classroom, it is because it's not easy. And sometimes it's a struggle that things aren't so easy. And that's a learning process. And we need to have those. that we have to work a little bit harder, and that's okay. And maybe this is the first time that they're seeing, like, I'm not, I've always been told that I was gifted. And right now I'm struggling. It's okay to be in those shoes, but as the educator, it's also how we frame it. And when I say, like, that's okay, we all have strengths and weaknesses. This just may be something that we just need to work on a little bit longer. It gives that, but it also gives the opportunity to really work. And so that's also something you might see in kiddos in your classroom. Any thoughts so far?
Hi. So that's on the left, right, keep it steady. One. What's it called?
It's called Not a Stick.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of my lesson planning actually comes from attending professional development. I teach a lot of classes in incorporating children's literature into the music classroom, but I urge you to please, please, please get out there and be a part of a professional learning community, whether it's going to local workshops. We have a national ORF convention that's actually coming up this next week, and I am so excited. I leave on Wednesday. It's amazing. I can't explain how wonderful it actually is. And to get the ideas and to sit in, and ORF, I can tell you, we actually do what we want our students to do. So we don't just sit in a room and get notes. There are instruments set up, and we actually do what we want our students to do. And once we experience it, it's easier to go back and teach. I mean, we have our notes and we have all the things. But I urge you to please, please, please be a part of one of those communities. And the Atlanta ORF chapter, I'm plugging that because that's what I know. The Kadai chapter, from what I understand, has disbanded in Georgia. I know the Kadai National Conference is in March in Jacksonville, and it's the week of the 16th. So I know that that's the Oak National Conference is then. But I do urge you to please come to the Atlanta ORF chapters. We go between a school in Gwinnett called Chattahoochee, and then one in Atlanta Public Schools called Mary Lynn Elementary. So that's a way to get a bunch of ideas, because everything that I've told you about, I've usually done in a workshop, to be honest with you. And I have 3-ring binders. I have 5 that are just filled with workshop notes over the years. And for me, I like having printed notes at conference. So I buy the printed notes so I can make my own documentation that I need for learning.
And Mandy, I think we have a new chapter, ORF chapter in Georgia. Lisa Haywood is involved with one in Augusta. So
Yes.
if you don't get involved, yes, with the Atlanta group, then do get involved with the Augusta group.
And Melissa Simba is really, really big into that chapter. She is like all things ORF. She is absolutely amazing. I taught there last year, and it was just the most welcoming, wonderful people, and I love them. So thank you for mentioning them. I don't want to leave them out.
Well, those of y'all who might not know, Mandy is GCSU alum, and she's also a Beta Rho, which is our chapter of SAI sister. And so is, Lisa Haywood is also GCSU alum. I don't remember if she's SAI or not. So
She is.
She is.
Yeah, she's SAI.
I get
So,
confused.
yeah. Whoop, whoop.
So we have to, yeah, we take care of our alums. So
We do. And the networking that goes on is amazing through our alumni. Is there anything else that you have any like burning questions about with lesson planning, or let me go back and share my screen. I was also going to show you, I showed you the Kadai website, the AOSA website. And if you're a college student, you actually get free membership to AOSA. If you want their, it's called the ORF Echo. If you want to get that, it's $30 because we have to pay for the publication fee. Just that's why. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you go into our portal. One thing I really wanted to show you is the resource library. I use this thing all the time. And it is all the things that you might need. So using questions to prompt and deepen learning and building relationships. There you go. We've talked about cannons, and I wrote. We have two publications. We have the Orth Echo, and then we have Reverberations that helps teachers. Reverberations is teachers helping teachers, and it is awesome, and it's emailed to you that you can open up. So here it is. If you need cannons, boom, there you go. So that can also help with your lesson planning, and college students get this for free. So just look to see what resources are available for you. And then we have teacher education courses. If you want levels courses to be ORF certified, you have to take 3 levels, and then there are master classes based on certain subjects. So there you go. Are there any other questions?
I did want to have purposeful pathways. Is that for all grade levels, or is it just for elementary? Because I'm looking into string orchestra of middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade.
It is actually, I think it's really brilliant. It is by concept.
Okay.
So it is by, like they'll tell you, do you see that book 1 right there? Do you see the block under it? That tells you what's included in that publication.
So then it's up to you to apply it to your students?
Yes.
And is that like purchased through the county? Would somebody seek approval through county, or is it like an individual educator basis for their class?
Well, when we did our textbook pilot, what we did is we bought 1 and 2. I think we bought 3. I have all of them, but every teacher was just given them because it was part of our textbook pilot. So teachers did not have to take their local school budget or funds given to them from the fine arts department. They were just given this resource as part of that process.
Okay.
I have to say it was really sweet that they did that for us.
Mm-hmm.
We're running out of time, so I want to make sure that if you have any last minute questions, this is the absolute last time to do it.
Could I apply for American Orff Show Work Association before I'll become a middle school choir teacher? Or
Yes.
no?
Yes, you can. Anybody can be a member, and anybody can take levels courses.
And they have levels this summer, you said?
Yes, in Cobb County, the first 2 weeks in June. And Dr. Michelle Sampson is actually the course director for those in Cobb. So please reach out, or you can email me and I'll get you the information. But it is honestly life-changing. I've always dealt with ORF because of my student teaching placement with Tiffany English, but it truly has developed me as an educator.
Okay, will you forward to me the links, please?
Yeah, sure.
We will look them up on Monday. Yes.
Okay.
If you're going to come and be on campus Monday, we'll look them up then.
All right.
Yay.
All right. Well, and if you have any other questions for Mandy, just send me an email and I will make sure she gets it so that she can reply. And thank you for attending today, and thank you to Mandy for this wonderful presentation. If you're wondering, yes, this is exactly how she is in her classroom. Her class runs exactly the way, she's not exaggerating.
Nope.
Her class runs exactly the way she described, and if you want to, we can try to set up a time to observe. All right, but thank you so much, and go ahead if you haven't yet and register for our spring events. Right now on the calendar, we have a programming for rural bands and a building student ritual and routines program, but I have 2 or 3 late arriving programs that we're about to add, and I will send those emails out when those are scheduled. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.